Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2013 Fall Sports Awards here on Q30 Television. I'm John Alba.
And I'm Mark Spillane. Over the next hour, we're going to take a look back at the past 3 months of Quinnipiac sports action.
New conferences, new moments, and new faces graced the Mount Carmel campus and the TD Bank Sports Center this past fall, setting up for what was a historic run by Bobcat sports squads.
So tonight, we'll honor those that made an impact and take a look back at some of the more memorable moments from the fall season.
We also have a full slate of Q30 Sports' finest on hand, as we'll break down the action and interview some of the people who helped push the fall season forward.
We'll also take a look at some of the integral pieces of the men's basketball team that has been opening up some eyes.
It's the Q30 Sports Award show, and it's time to honor some of Quinnipiac's finest.
And John, we're going to start with the Player of the Semester Award.
With so many outstanding moments during the autumn season, there were many players who made the case to be crowned as Player of the Fall season.
These 3 nominees were incredibly important to the success of their squads. And so far, we've been impressed by all of them. They are Borjan Goita, men's soccer midfielder Simon Hind, field hockey's Jess Rusin, and rugby's Natalie Costco.
So without further ado, the winner of the 2013 Q30 Fall Sports Player of the Season is Borjan Goita.
No surprise there, John. Borjan Goita was phenomenal this year in goal for the Bobcats soccer team, and he led them to their first ever MAC title and NCAA tournament appearance, but he did it with some incredible numbers.
And Goita led the MAC with 9 shutouts and was second in both save percentage and goals against average, while making the 3rd most saves in the conference.
Simon Hind's conference-leading 10 goals were very impressive, but Goita's presence proved too valuable for Quinnipiac. And now Borjan Goita himself is here in studio to join us, and he's sitting down with Maury Hirschgordon. Maury?
Borja, first of all, congratulations on this award. What does it mean to you?
It means everything. Is just a recognition for all the hard work that I put, me, myself personally, and as a team, and with the help of all the coaches and the staff.
Now, being a goalkeeper in soccer and other sports, what do you do mentally and physically to prepare for each game?
Well, I think training is the biggest part, and always get yourself ready for every game. But I think a big part is visualization for the games. Always think about those moments that you want to happen during the game, so then they can happen in the game, and always be ready for when things get rough, and you have to be extremely mentally strong for it, because there will be moments where you will make mistakes, and there will be moments where there will be a lot of pressure on you, and you have to be ready for all of that.
And now, do you have any rituals that you do before any of your games that help you stay mentally prepared?
Yeah, I'm a very superstitious player, to be honest with you. I have way too many. I always wear Nike gloves and Nike boots. I always tape my left hand first. I always put my left glove in first. I always touch the crossbar before every game. And when we win, usually we all, not me, but I'm pretty sure every player tends to do the things that you've been doing the days before.
Now, your season was filled with stats and numerous amounts of accomplishments, but you were sidelined this season due to an injury that required surgery to your face, but you came back right away. Just talk a little bit about that process.
Well, it was very rough for me, because in America, in the college system, you only get to play for the fall semester, which is 18 games usually in a period of 3 months, which means that if you get surgery or if you're injured, you're basically risking missing a lot of games during the season. But I was lucky enough to get surgery as quick as I could, and everything went out perfect. Surgery went perfect. We found a mask that could protect me for every game, and even though it wasn't my favorite thing to play with, at the end of the day, I was lucky enough and grateful to be playing. And Jason had to step up, and he did it perfectly, and everybody is so proud of him for what he did, and me personally, and I was ready to come back, and then I was somehow fit enough still and ready to play.
And now, talking about that mask, you took it off for the penalty kicks for the championship game against Monmouth. Why did you do that?
Just to feel comfortable 100%. I've never been hit in the face besides that time, so the chances of getting hit in the face again are pretty small. So I wanted to feel 100%, because it's a moment where you need to feel comfortable about yourself. So I took it off, and it paid off.
First season in the MAC. You guys win the regular season. You go to the NCAA tournament. Now the target's on your team's back. Going into your senior season, what do you guys have to do differently this off season than others in the previous years?
If the list is to put the same work that we've put in the past off seasons, and clearly we want to make it better than this year and make it to the second round, we need to put even more work than what we've done in the off season. But everybody is extremely excited already about the next year, and even though it's only been 2 weeks, we cannot wait to get back to work in the spring and to put all the effort that we can, and then I'm pretty sure things will work perfectly for us.
Well, Borja, congratulations on the award. Back to you guys.
You know, Mark, I got a few superstitions myself before I go on air. I got to make sure that my hair gel's distributed evenly across the top of my head. But I don't know, Nike gloves.
We could talk about you after the show, John.
Okay.
But you know, a player, as good as they may be a standout, but they're nothing without the teammates that surround them.
And that's why it's time to honor the Quinnipiac Team of the Semester.
And our 3 nominees won a combined 33 games in the fall season, and each of them made appearances in national tournaments.
2 of those were off automatic bids from winning the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, making Quinnipiac history in the process.
Not to mention, they did it just a week apart.
It's pretty impressive, you know. But the nominees are national powerhouse Quinnipiac Women's Rugby, the 2013 MAC champion Quinnipiac Field Hockey Team, and the 2013 MAC champion Men's Soccer Squad.
And the award for the 2013 Q30 Sports Team of the Fall Season goes to the Men's Soccer Team.
Now, the men's soccer team takes home the first 2 awards on the evening, and deservingly so.
Quinnipiac entered the season ranked 6th in the preseason poll. Not sure what they were thinking on that one. It received nearly 40 less points than first place Monmouth and second place Iona as it entered its first season in the MAC.
The Bobcats also lost several of their top scorers heading into the season, but strong goaltending and defense allowed the team to clinch a share of the regular season conference title, and the play remained consistent enough to knock off both top teams in back-to-back rounds of the MAC tournament and clinch their first ever NCAA bid.
And now we're going to send it over to Tom Cunningham, who's sitting down with Quinnipiac men's soccer coach Eric DaCosta. Tom?
Thanks, guys. I'm joined here now by Coach Eric DaCosta. Coach, first of all, congratulations on a great season. First season in the MAC, and you win the championship. So the team was projected to finish 7th in the MAC this season. Obviously exceeded that. You finished first in the regular season, and you won the conference tournament. How did you sort of corral this team together, especially in the early going, as the team was struggling to put some points on the board and score goals?
Yeah, I think the tone was set when the MAC preseason polls came out, and it gave us the motivation that we needed to come into the season and prepare ourselves to, sort of prove all the doubters that they got it wrong. And these boys did it tremendously. We play a very difficult schedule. Play one of the toughest schedules, definitely in the MAC conference. So that prepares us for league play, and it prepares us for every game. So we have to make sure that we can make it through that adversity, and we're definitely battle tested by the time that a non-conference schedule is done. And it's all about just keeping the boys together, keeping them positive, making sure they believe in what we're doing, they understand that what road we're on, and then producing. And once the conference got into full swing, we again had to deal with some adversity with Borja going down there for a few games, but every player is important. Every player has a major role to play on this team, and it was proven when Jason stepped in 3 games, walked away with 2 wins and a shutout, which gave us 6 massive points and kept us on track. And it's just about inner belief and great leadership, and we're lucky to have players that believe in one another, and we have tremendous leadership as well.
And you mentioned the goalkeeping. It was tremendous all season long. .70 goals against average for Borja. What can you, although the goaltending was so great, what can you say about the way the defense played in front of him all season long? Yeah,
they were fantastic. And again, it took some time to develop some chemistry there. Across the back line, we had 2 new players out of the 4. We moved Brandon, who is traditionally our center back, into the midfield. Tobias came in as a transfer student and integrated real well, along with Ashton Pett, who came into the right back position and integrated real well. That combined with Eric Panzer and Stevenson Hockey, it turned out to be a fantastic foursome there. And as the season grew and they got more comfortable with one another, those numbers started to go down. And as a defensive unit, you want low numbers, not big numbers. And that chemistry between those 4 guys and Borja was really the key in keeping a lot of teams off the board.
And you mentioned Brandon Straingood, who down the stretch started to play up a little bit, scored 2 goals down the stretch for the team. What can you say about how the team found their secondary scoring after Simon Hind and Marshall Baker sort of carried the team in the first beginning of the season?
Yeah, it's funny because the way we play and our style of play is very much about sharing the ball and keeping possession, and we never really rely on one player for the scoring anyway. And early on in the season, it seemed that was going to be the case. Simon was picking up clutch goal after clutch goal, and he put himself in some great positions and was able to finish off a lot of great scoring chances. But we knew that other players would step up, and we knew other players would have their opportunity. It was just only a matter of time before players started contributing. And at the end of the season, when you look at it, Simon's still our leading goal scorer, and rightfully so. But there are a lot of players behind him who scored some key goals for us.
Coach, thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations on a great season.
Thank you very much.
Tom, thank you. Coach, thank you as well. Coming up in a bit, we take a look back at the top moment of the fall season, with championship winners and big-time saves, which will rank above them all.
Also, we have our picks for coach and rookie of the semester. All that and more coming up next. The Bobcat Shop, located at 1010 Sherman Avenue in Hamden. Your number one choice for Bobcat merchandise. The Bobcat Shop features 2 floors of countless styles and colors. With a full 19,000 square foot screen printing and embroidery operation on the premises, Campus Customs and Simplify can design and decorate any garment or promotional product as quickly as needed. Stop in and say hi.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken with cheese for just over $4, giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q-Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome back, everyone. John, great moments are born from great opportunity.
Former United States men's ice hockey coach Herb Brooks said that before his team took the ice against the Soviet Union in the 1980 Winter Olympics. And there were no shortage of opportunities this past fall semester.
The success of the fall squads provided for some of the most memorable displays of sports triumph in Quinnipiac history. Conference clinchers, late game winners, they were all prevalent in 2013.
And now it's time to pick out the moment of the semester.
The nominees for moment of the semester are Jess Rusin setting the Quinnipiac field hockey record for career goals scored. Borja Goita's final save and penalty kicks in the MAC championship, sending the Bobcats to the NCAA tournament. Amanda Danziger's game winner in her final home game at Quinnipiac. And finally, Natalie Costco's 6-try, 30-point performance on senior day for women's rugby.
And the winner is Borja Goita's save in the MAC championship game. Mark, a clean sweep so far for men's soccer.
And this is one of those moments that separates the men from the boys, John. 2 consecutive games with penalty kicks. Borja making the save at the end in both of those to get the wins. This was one of historic proportions.
And since it was, we're going to head over to Nick Dench for more on the save.
Yeah, guys, and what better way for the men's soccer team to end their MAC season with Borja making another save. Penalty kick saves, these are the most difficult saves to make as a goaltender. It's a lot of guessing. There's a little bit of skill involved. It's not like a lot of the other shots. But you see Borja, he's always locked in. He even took a shot, which shows that he knows where all of these shots could go. He's got the mind of a shooter and a goalkeeper, and that's always an impressive thing to see out of a goalkeeper. It's great to see how this men's soccer team starts with strong defense and goaltending, and they end their MAC season with strong goaltending. Borja and Goita making 2 huge saves, this one getting the win. But the one against Iona the game before was also big for their season to keep them going into that game. And then you look at how he played even against UConn. Another big thing for this team. And he's come back for another year, guys. So this is a huge thing for them. They go into it. He comes in, makes another big save, and he's got plenty more left in his career.
Well, thanks, Nick. And no matter how great those moments may have been, none of them, Mark, were possible without the leaders on the sidelines.
And tonight we're going to honor the Coach of the Year for the fall season. Our 3 nominees have combined 31 years of coaching experience and all found success in 2013.
Becky Carlson led her rugby squad to 10 wins in just its 3rd season and took it to the 2nd round of the ACRA National Tournament. The Bobcats topped 90 points twice on the season and even installed a groundbreaking mentorship program for the freshmen.
Becca Main entered a new conference with her field hockey team and set a standard for the school by winning Quinnipiac's first postseason MAC championship. The Bobcats dominated at home, going 8-1, and set a standard in the league for their ability to shut out opponents. Goalie Megan Conboy posted 4 consecutive shutouts in the month of November alone. Maine will enter her 20th season next year.
Pretty impressive, but also impressive was Eric DeCosta, who rebounded from a heartbreaking loss in the NEC playoffs last season and led Quinnipiac men's soccer to its first ever NCAA appearance. The team willed its way through 18 total overtime periods throughout the season, a test of both the mind and the body, but DeCosta and company didn't miss a beat, collecting 9 wins and 7 ties en route to the conference title.
So without further ado, the coach of the fall season is Coach Becca Main of the field hockey team, and our field hockey czar, Zach Daly, is sitting alongside her right now.
Well, thanks, guys. Coach, first, congratulations on a great season. You know, coming into the season, a lot of expectations, but what were some of the challenges coming into this year as well?
I think the challenge every year is to make sure every athlete understands their importance. So I think this year when you have 7 seniors and they are controlling kind of the ship, is what we say, is making sure that everybody understands that they're a vital piece. And I think number 2 is we really instituted a lot of different outletting presses, a lot of, I would say, elite level things this year. So making sure everybody was on the same page so that as you're going into each game, we could come in as a different team with a different setup at each game.
And you had a lot of key players contribute to this year's team, but what player did you see the most growth out of this year?
I have to say Megan Conboy. I mean, we really pushed her last year, understanding that what piece of the puzzle that needed to be fixed this year and really needed to be filled was Nicole Lewis's shoes from last year. So Megan Conboy for us really was that kid that stepped it up, that focused, that put everything into it. So if you don't have a good goalkeeper, as we saw with men's soccer, you have to have the keeper. And I think Megan was the person that really came through the most for us.
Now, how did you help players like Megan Conboy and the rest of the girls on the team reach their fullest potential this year?
I actually think by the end of the season, I think you saw this with men's soccer also, is the ship starts to get driven by the players. So I really think that they each fed from each other. And we talk about chemistry all the time, and you saw it in 2 different teams in the fall that it really clicked chemistry-wise, skill-wise. So I really do have to put the onus on really what the older players did, what the younger players did, and we just had a tremendous freshman class who really gelled well, clicked well, and did a nice job pushing each other and pushing our starters in practice.
Now, we've talked all year about this senior class, and we've got to talk about them one more time. What has this senior class meant to the field hockey program?
I think what it is when you recruit a class, and we knew this class as freshmen, we kept saying, oh my gosh, how are they going to be in 4 years? They actually exceeded all expectations, and the expectations were high. So, you know, them leaving our program, it's really hard to say goodbye. It's really hard to let them go. So we're keeping around as much as possible, and they're going to help our next leaders in Danielle Allen and Megan Conboy and Megan Osanich. So I think that they have left a legacy. I think that, you know, they chant and they joke, we're going to be in the Hall of Fame in 10 years. And I think that's something that when you work and you keep that in goal in your mind every single game, every single practice, I think that that can come to fruition. So they have left themselves in a Hall of Fame worthy type of category.
What was the most rewarding part about this year?
I go back to chemistry, but the chemistry we had as a coaching staff, the chemistry we had as a team, our supporters, including yourself, our administrators, I think that the most memorable is everything clicked. It's that moment where I don't want to say you're in the zone, but everything felt like it clicked, and you're surrounded with a group of athletes also at Quinnipiac that were very, very supportive, including their coaches.
All right, Coach, congratulations. Thanks again. John, Mark, back to you guys.
Zach, thank you. Coach Main, thank you. And you know, John, Quinnipiac sports teams are not the only ones with impressive.
That's right. We at Q30 Sports have plenty of our own as well.
Take Connor Fortier here, for example. The hard work of these freshmen helped make Q30 Sports your go-to outlet for all Quinnipiac athletics.
And hey, it's not bad looking either.
Okay, all right. Easy, John. Anyway, it's time to take a look at the nominees for Rookie of the Fall season. They are Emma Ogden of the women's volleyball team, Jessica Fontaine of the women's soccer team, and Toby Esch of the men's soccer team.
And without further ado, the winner of the Rookie Award is Emma Ogden.
Emma led the team in assists with 636 and was among the top players in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. She was one of several talented freshmen that head coach Chris Saplinski brought in for the 2013 season. She helped lead the team to 5 wins on the year.
Carolyn Fales is standing by with more alongside our Rookie of the semester, the one and only Miss Emma Ogden.
Thanks, John and Mark. So, Emma, first of all, congratulations on a great rookie season.
Thank you.
So what was the transition like for you from playing high school volleyball to college volleyball?
College volleyball is a lot bigger commitment. I think there's a little bit more pressure because in high school you're playing with the same girls from your same town through club all the way through high school. So coming to college, you're bringing girls in from all over the country, and you have to mesh and get your skills working fast.
Yeah, you've certainly got it from all over the country.
Yeah.
So you were the only slated setter coming in this year. What kind of pressure did that put on you?
It wasn't too bad because I ran a 5-1, meaning I was only setter on my last 3 travel teams.
Yep.
So coming in as only setter wasn't so bad. More coming in as only at my first year of college, and that kind of pressure was worse than being the only setter.
Okay, and you were one of 6 freshmen coming in this year, and that isn't what it was like in the past couple of years. So what do you think what kind of impact did that have on the team this year, having 6 freshmen?
I think it was a big adjustment year for us. We were half the team, 6, and then we had 7 returners, but it was helpful because we were coming in together. You know, it is a big transition. None of us are really from around this area, so having 5 other girls into the same situation as I am, it was helpful to have us all together, and we could feed off of each other. If we had problems, we could go to each other, and it was a new experience for all of us, so I wasn't the only one going through it.
And now earlier in the year, you were given both the MAC Rookie of the Week and Player of the Week. So what kind of momentum did that give for you for the rest of the season?
It was awesome to receive those awards. I couldn't have done it without my team and without my teammates. I think it was a big confidence booster for me, being the only setter as a freshman. I was nervous, but after receiving those awards, it gave me confidence to do my job and really run the team like I was supposed to.
And what are your goals for next season?
To get healthy, first of all. I had an ankle injury at the end of the year, so to get healthy and be able to come back. And I think next year we have another big class coming in, but in the new conference, I think we can really take it, and I want more wins and definitely conference win.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Emma,
you.
back to you guys.
Well, when we return, it's basketball central. The men's team has been on a roll, and in part due to shining junior and freshman sensations.
And the women's team has had its hands full with one of the toughest out-of-conference schedules in the entire country. We'll see how they did this week. We'll be right back.
The Bobcat Shop, located at 1010 Sherman Avenue in Hamden. Your #1 choice for Bobcat merchandise. The Bobcat Shop features 2 floors of countless styles and colors. With a full 19,000 square foot screen printing and embroidery operation on the premises, Campus Customs and Simplify can design and decorate any garment or promotional product as quickly as needed. Stop in and say hi.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken with cheese for just over $4, giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
And welcome back to this Q30 Sports Special. John, now it's time to transition from the fall season into the winter season. And we've already discussed some incredible teams in the fall and how they've performed this year, but there's a few winter teams that are off to even better starts.
That's right, Mark. With both ice hockey teams ranked in the top 10 and both basketball teams showing flashes of their own abilities this winter season is going to line up to be an exciting one at the TD Bank Sports Center.
Now, you mentioned basketball, which is where we're going to begin with our winter sports discussion, and we'll start on the men's side. The men's team is off to a strong 4-2 start with impressive wins over Albany and Hampton on their resume. Not to mention playing LaSalle to just a 6-point defeat. Not that bad. LaSalle was in the tournament last year on ESPN's 24-hour tip-off marathon.
And they've done it with depth and a balanced attack, Mark, as 5 different players are averaging double-digit points early on. Zaid Hearst is leading the way with 15 per game, and Ike Asatam finds himself averaging more than 14 in his senior season.
But it has been the presence of transfer graduate student Umar Shannon and freshman Kasim Chandler that have made huge impacts for this team. The 2 guards have combined for more than 25 points per game and provided depth in the Quinnipiac backcourt.
And their play, combined with Quinnipiac's ability to rebound, has them leading the conference in both rebound and point differential, which is translating to victories on the court.
But will these trends continue? The Bobcats have games versus Vermont, Lehigh, and Oregon State coming up before they dive into the meat of their conference schedule in January.
And to discuss everything about this Bobcats basketball team, we'll bring in 2 of QU's brightest basketball minds, Tim Schultz and Jordan Katz. But first, we take a look at a story done by Q30 Sports' Camille Bova on Quinnipiac's leading scorer, Zaid Hearst.
Zaid Hearst is a junior point guard for the men's basketball team. He works day in and day out to lead his team by example.
You know, he brings toughness, he brings experience, he brings defense. He's a really good slasher. really a steadying influence. He's been on the court as a starter for us for now 2 years plus, and has got a ton of experience and a lot of big games for us over the last couple of years, and just does a lot of the things that go sometimes unnoticed that really help us win.
The kid works hard, man. He never gives up. He's always putting in the extra work. Always got a smile on his face, always trying to make something better of himself, and like he's a workhorse. He's a workhorse. That's my first impression of Zaid.
He's very humble. Like, he really, really cares. Like, he really makes sure everyone's doing what they have to do. Like, he'll make sure that everyone's working hard. He'll keep everyone's spirits up, but at the same time, like, there's no one who really works as hard as Z. There's no one who's more invested in winning as him, and that just really rubs off on the whole team. Like, if I'll see that Z is going to the gym on a day off, I'm like, I gotta go too, because I just gotta match. Everyone needs to match his intensity, and his intensity bar is so high.
He's well liked by the guys on his team. He does a great job. He strikes a great balance between being well liked and having fun with the guys in the locker room, but also being so competitive during practice that he'll occasionally upset them.
Zaid uses his sense of humor to help keep his teammates' spirits high and to connect with them off of the court.
You can't be too serious. You're too serious, then, you start, like, taking energy away from people. You start, you look bad. And, like, when you're always smiling, it just makes other people want to smile, so.
When I first met him, he was just a dude that's always joking and stuff, so I thought he was just a comedian at all times.
If basketball's a thing, I'll try to be a comedian or something like that. Well, not a serious comedian, but, just make people laugh, so.
For Bobcat Madness, Zaid surprised his team during the dunk contest.
It was kind of last minute. I really wanted to get Terrio, from Vine to come up to Quinnipiac. That would have been great. But it was kind of last minute, so, it was just, I don't know, a Teletubby costume, so I guess.
And I'm like, what is this kid doing? But the way it made the crowd and our team laugh, that was a great memory.
We can all agree that on and off the court, Zaid is a great leader, friend, and teammate.
No, we're not Mark and John. I'm Jordan, that's Tim, and we're going to talk a little men's basketball and preview sort of the season that's going to continue to come for this men's basketball team. We've got some topics of conversation. Tim, you start. You grab the first one.
All right, let's get the conversation started. So, Jordan, so far, what has the men's team done this year that's led to their early season success?
They've done a lot of things. We talk about the rebounding all the time, but what they've done an excellent job of, they've really been terrific in the offensive sets in the half court. They like to run a 3-around-2, which is you'll have 3 players on the perimeter, 1 on the wing, 2 on the wing, and 1 at the top of the key that generally gets the ball started. And then 2 post players down low. Those will be Ike Azatam and Ousmane Drame. Tim, what they've done an excellent job in is getting into those sets, getting the ball moving, and getting good shots. They've really done a terrific job of that in the half court.
And not even just to mention that, this team, which they've been known to do well, is rebound the basketball. They're 3rd in the country currently in offensive and defensive rebounds. And it's really been the strength of this team so far. They pretty much every game have had a plus 15 in the margin of rebounds against their opponent. So pretty much so far, so good this season for the Bobcats.
Here's the thing about that, guys, and I just want to jump in for a second. Now, last season, Ousmane Drame struggled to stay consistent through the first half of the season, and it looked like he was going to be off to a slow start this year, but he's picked things up. What happens if Drame doesn't contribute down the stretch here?
It's a great question. I guess they'd have to go with A.J. Sunbury getting more minutes. He's not really ready, but I don't see where else you go. And, John, this is why on the show to start the year, about a month back, you and I mentioned that Ousmane Drame was the most important player for this team's success this season. Tim, you expect to get those nights out of Ike Azatam where he'll provide. If you get those nights out of Ousmane Drame, you don't have to go to your bench so fast, which is not a strong bench when it comes to the front court.
And we've seen it so far for the Bobcats this year. They've gone with an 8-man rotation with their bench. So pretty much you've exclusively seen Ike Azatam, Ousmane Drame, and A.J. Sunbury play in the front court. So if Ousmane Drame has an off night, Ike Azatam's going to have to clean up a lot of the mess on the floor for the Bobcats.
All right, let's go to the second one here. Tim, which newcomer has had the greatest impact this season for the Bobcats?
I mean, so far, I think it's a pretty easy person to pick right now. And so far, it's been Umar Shannon. He's been an absolute stud for the Bobcats in the backcourt for them. And it's almost like when they lost James Johnson, they lost that leader in the backcourt.
That's right.
And you bring in Umar Shannon. He's a grad student who came from St. Francis, and he's just been lights out for the Bobcats. He's second in the team in scoring so far this year. And not only just on the court, off the court, he brings leadership to the team. This is a team that has Ike Azetam and Shaq Shannon, who are your two seniors. You have a guy who's older than the two of them, and he brings that leadership. So you have another guy who's been around for 4 years, who's played college basketball, and he can lead some of the younger guys, the freshmen, the A.J. Sumbries, the Kasim Chandlers. He brings leadership to the table for Quinnipiac.
Just to argue somebody different, because that's what we do. Kasim Chandler has had a big impact for this team as well. And Kasim Chandler has actually helped Umar Shannon in a way that might not be so obvious. Umar Shannon's actually a better player when he plays off the ball and he doesn't have to bring the ball up because he's such a good scorer. Kasim Chandler has shown the ability to be a point guard. Yes, he turns the ball over at points and times, and yes, he goes 110 miles an hour all the time, and sometimes that doesn't favor the Bobcats, but his ability to play the point allows Umar to play off the ball when he's in games with Umar Shannon. That helps this team a lot because they didn't have a true
Jordan,
point guard.
That's two guards right there. There's also another one who hasn't exactly been living up to his expectations this year.
Right, that's the point,
That's Evan
though.
Conti. But here's my question to you. What happens then if you are so reliant on these two guards, especially heading into MAC play?
And to build off that point, John, to go off Kasim Chandler, I actually did speak with Chandler earlier this season. And even though he's a freshman, he told me, quote, he's fearless. He's not afraid to go up and down the court with the ball. That's something that the Bobcats need in the backcourt with Umar Shannon being a grad student. He's going to be gone after this year. Shaq Shannon's going to be gone. He's a guy who can lead this team moving forward. Evan Conti is another player who has to step up. He's not been very solid so far this year.
I don't think they're that reliant on these two guards, though. You have Shaq Shannon, who's a good shooter. You have Zaid Hearst, who's been terrific so far this season. I don't think they're relying on those two guards. Does Evan Conti need to pick up the play? Absolutely. Evan Conti is someone that gets in this rotation no matter what because he will give you 110% effort every time he's on the floor, and that gets you minutes at the collegiate level. So he is someone that does have to step it up. Go to the
and
third
not
one.
to mention though, Conti
All
also
right,
he has
maybe
a
not.
knack for big shots as well. So all right, now we'll move to the third question
cool.
here. So Jordan, that's
That's
the
the
second question. This is
That's
the
all
third
right.
question. So Jordan, how would you grade the men's team so far on a scale of 1 to 10 this season?
It's tough. It's tough. I'd give it a 7, and the reason why I'd give it a 7 is because they had a game last night that they had an opportunity to win. Late in the game could have put them to 5-1, but again, you lose those close games. This is what we see with this team all the time, is we see them lose close games. So it's been good. It hasn't been great. And BU was a game that they should have won. You go on that home schedule. That's a game you've got to check off and win.
Just for argument's sake, I'm going to say it's been an 8 so far because anytime you change conferences, there's always going to be that sense of unawareness as to what you're going to get with a new conference. 4-2 so far. Obviously, it's been non-conference play, but they've looked solid. Even in their 2 games that they lost to LaSalle and BU, they played very well. They lost on a late second shot last night to BU. And LaSalle, they were in it the whole game, but the strength of the team was rebounding, and they didn't rebound very well in that game. But overall, I'd give them an 8.
And you got it in right before the buzzer there, Tim. Your own buzzer beater. Nice job, guys. We appreciate the analysis as always. So now we've gotten a chance to look at Zaid Hearst, and we've discussed everything about men's basketball. So now it's time to switch gears to the women's side.
That's right, John. And if you wanted to talk about a really good team last year, you didn't have to look any further than the QU women's basketball squad. The team finished 30-3. 30-3. They won the Northeast.
It's a lot of wins.
It's a lot of wins, not a lot of losses. They won the Northeast Conference title and advanced to the NCAA tournament before finally losing to powerhouse Maryland.
And this year's move to the MAC has been highly anticipated for the team, but so far the squad has amassed a 3-4 record in its non-conference schedule with wins over North Carolina A&T, American, and Missouri State. Now, they also have to play Louisville on the road. That's not going to usually work in favor for you.
That's a very tough game, Louisville on the road. And while the Bobcats have stopped using their 5-for-5 substitution dubbed the Gold Rush, their depth is still an important piece of their game plan.
7 different players are averaging at least 5 points per game for the Bobcats, while Jasmine Martin, the junior sensation, leads the way with more than 15 per game. Right now, Quinnipiac leads the MAC in scoring per game, and Coach Tricia Fabry's squad is also one of the best rebounding teams in the conference, as it's tied for first with Iona in rebounding margin.
And the moment everyone's been waiting for is coming up this Friday, December 6th, when QU hosts Marist to tip off the Bobcats' conference schedule.
And now to discuss everything we could possibly need to know about Quinnipiac women's basketball, we bring in Arthur Lane and Giovanni Mio. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thanks, Mark and John. Well, Arthur, let's talk about last year first, a little bit for a few seconds. The women's basketball team won 30 games. They won the Northeast Conference Championship. They go to the NCAA tournament, and they lose to Maryland in the first round. And this year, they pack up their schedule a little bit more, make it a little bit more intense to start off the year before their first conference game against Marist on December 6th. And you have to say, it's been pretty impressive for so far this season. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I would. Their strength of schedule this far at this point in the season is 6th in the country. Yes, I said 6th in the country. So they've had a tough test early, and that's a good test before you get into before you get into conference play, to play these great non-conference teams. A lot of teams which are as good or if not better than the rest of the MAC teams.
And it's a little bit different because you lose Felicia Barron, and she led the league at one point in steals per game last year, and you could see it in the defense, as there are some games where the Bobcats are up by a certain amount. Like, they were up by 11 points against St. Joe's at halftime, and they eventually lost the game in almost blowout fashion. Arthur, do you see that loss of Felicia Barron really impacting this defense?
I absolutely do. They've given up an average of 22 more points per game this year than they did last year. Really struggling to shut down the best player on the other team. Now, against UT Martin, they gave up a 44-point performance and a 31-point performance in the same game. So you definitely see that lack of a defensive stopper, and that's really caused problems for them early in the non-conference schedule.
Let's talk about conference games. They have Marist on December 6th, and we know that they are one of the, if not the best team in the MAC so far, preseason number 1. And they are projected to win that conference once again. They went to the Sweet 16 a few years ago. You got Iona second, and Quinnipiac is ranked 3rd. So before we get to Marist, let's talk about Hartford. This team has lost every single game by at least 20 points per game. They're 1-6 on the year. Do you see this game being a trap game?
I definitely think it could be a trap game just because there's so much press out there around the Marist-Quinnipiac game. But I think they will take care of business. I think every game is hugely important for this team now. And then, when you start talking about Marist, the first game of the MAC season, and it goes against the defending champions, the Marist Red Foxes. And I really look to see this team and see how good they can be. This first game, while it is the first game of the MAC season, it's going to tell us a lot going forward.
I mean, I have to agree with you to a certain extent there. But let's not forget, though, that this team is not really doing well behind the three-point line. They're going to face some pretty tough teams inside, like the Iona Gales, who also average around 40 rebounds per game. And you also have Joy Adams averaging 13 boards per game for them so far. Tamika Martinez, 22 points, 7 rebounds. So when that team comes along, not talking about much, talking about Iona here, when they face Iona, what should they do minus the 3 points, 3-point shooting, my bad, that they should do in order to actually beat these types of teams in the MAC?
Well, I think you got to run more half-court offensive sets. Brittany McQuain's been outstanding for this team so far. So I'd look to her to really lead the team against a bigger team like Iona, and I definitely think she'd step up. But like you said, the three-point shooting hasn't been where it needs to be, about 4% lower than it was last year, and they're shooting a couple more three-pointers every single game. They need to clean that up a little because they rely on it so heavily. You live by the three, you die by it. So you have to establish Brittany McQuain for the rest of the season. And I think they can do that, and then the three-point game will come with it, and they'll be fine in the MAC. I'm not saying that they're going to lose, multiple games in the MAC early on, but it's definitely a good test, and this team could definitely compete in the MAC, and we'll see it in the first game against Marist.
Only time will tell how the women's team will do in the future. Mark, John, back to you guys.
All right, Gio, thanks so much for that. Now it's time to take another break here, but don't go anywhere because we're not done yet. When we get back, we'll have everything you could possibly want to hear about the top 10 ranked Quinnipiac men's and women's ice hockey squads. Stay with us.
The Bobcat Shop, located at 1010 Sherman Avenue in Hamden. Your #1 choice for Bobcat merchandise. The Bobcat Shop features 2 floors of countless styles and colors. With a full 19,000 square foot screen printing and embroidery operation on the premises, Campus Customs and Simplify can design and decorate any garment or promotional product as quickly as needed. Stop in and say hi.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken with cheese for just over $4, giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. Q Cash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
And welcome back to this Q30 Sports Special. It's now time to switch from the court to the ice, John. And we're going to start with the Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team. The squad is off to its best start in program history with a 12-2-5 record. Good to make them 8th ranked in the USCHO.com poll.
The Bobcats are led by dominant scorer Kelly Babstock, who leads the nation with 30 points. But Quinnipiac has also gotten plenty of scoring from other players as well, like transfer from Syracuse, Cheyenne Darkangelo, who has 17 points, and Emma Woods, who has 15. Both good for top 50 scoring in the country.
And there's no denying that the defense and goaltending have been superb for this team, John. The Bobcats are 4th-ranked team in defense overall in the nation, led by goaltender Chelsea Layden. Layden's save percentage of .948 is 3rd best in the nation, and her 5 shutouts are good for 2nd most behind Clarkson's Erica Howe.
Victoria Vigilante, who? You know what I'm talking about. The Bobcats, though, they've already defeated Boston College and tied Cornell and pushed their ranking to number 5 2 weeks ago. And they still have games versus Harvard, Clarkson, and Cornell once more, each in February, as the team looks to push for the program's first ECAC championship.
And to discuss the current state of Quinnipiac women's ice hockey, we bring in Kevin Noonan and Connor Voss. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mark and John. This women's ice hockey team, like you guys said, off to its best start in program history at 12-2-5, 3-2-4 in the ACAC. They've suffered a lot of tough ties so far this season. But Connor, I'm going to ask you first off, who do you think has been the most important player on this team?
Well, most importantly, clearly, has been Chelsea Layden. Defense is what wins championships, and that's what we've seen. As Mark and John said, she is 3rd in the nation in save percentage. She's got a 1.06 goals against average so far this year, and really she's been making saves that you don't see for most goalies across the league. She's been doing anything from she's been excellent so far this entire year. She's had 10 wins. She's been a part of all 5 ties this year. Really, she's done an excellent job.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea Layden's been great in net for the Bobcats, but you can't win if you don't score goals. And at times, Quinnipiac has had trouble scoring goals. They've suffered 2 0-0 ties so far this season. And you have to look at Kelly Babstock. She has started off pretty much where she left off last season. Like we've talked about before throughout multiple QBSN broadcasts, once Kelly Babstock got over that 100-point plateau, she has regained that form that she had her freshman year. She has 30 points this season, 11 goals, 19 assists. And she has got 184 career points, and she's going to get that 200th career point. I have no doubt about that at some point in her career, but it's this offense that's really propelling this Bobcats. Kelly Babstock, like we just talked about, Cheyenne Darkangelo, Emma Woods, they've done well, but outside of that offense, they need to get a little bit more production. Amanda Collin has just 4 goals this season. Nicole Connery has just 4 goals this season. And outside of that, not really much else, because the Bobcats really rely on Kelly Babstock a little bit too much. If they didn't get Cheyenne Darkangelo to transfer into Quinnipiac, I think this offense would be a little bit more stagnant because they would rely on Babstock so much.
Yeah, Darkangelo has been a huge part of the season so far. She's a force on the power play so far this year and has really brought a lot of offense to the team that hasn't been lacking. And like you said, the offense has been a little bit of an issue. The team has 4 ties in ECAC play, and when no other team in the ACAC has more than 1 tie. So really they've been playing to the level of the teams they've been playing. For the most part, they've tied good teams, they've beat good teams. They beat Boston College 3-2, but they've tied to Cornell, they've tied to St. Lawrence, they've tied to Princeton and St. Cloud State, and that's been really their hitch so far. Is getting over those ties against teams that are right now better than them in the ECAC.
So Connor, you bring up those ties with, you have a tie against St. Lawrence. That's going to be pretty important for the Bobcats to overcome. I mean, you have to look at these games. They have a tie against St. Lawrence, against Cornell. They lost to Harvard. They tied against Princeton, and they lost to Clarkson. Those are a bunch of teams that they have to really play a lot better against if they want to have a chance at winning the ECAC title. Because you look at it there, the second half of their season is quickly approaching, and if they don't overcome those teams and pick up a couple more wins, they're not going to be able to win the conference and certainly not have a chance to play the Frozen Four on their own rink in Hamden, Connecticut.
Of course, and there's always motivation to play at home when the finals of the season are at home. Really, they've got a lot to work on if they want to continue to win and succeed for the rest of the season.
But with that said, that'll do it for us here talking about the women's ice hockey squad. Back to Mark and John.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. So clearly the women's hockey team is off to a pretty good start, but there's still one team that has had a better beginning to the season, and that's the men's ice hockey team.
Well, they're okay. They started the season 13-2-2 so far and are currently ranked 5th in the USCHO.com national poll. Perhaps the most impressive part of their season was the 13-game unbeaten streak that stretched a month and a half and included wins over number 7 UMass Lowell, 15th ranked Cornell, and a tie versus number 8 Yale.
And since the unbeaten streak was snapped versus Princeton, the team skated to a 3-3 tie with number 4 Providence. The most impressive part of Quinnipiac play thus far, though, has been its defense. Despite losing 11 seniors and 4 of the top 6 defensemen to graduation last year, the team boasts the nation's best defense, led by Michael Gartig.
Gartig replaced last year's Hobie Baker nominee Eric Hartzell this season, and he leads the nation in starts, minutes played, and wins, and he's just surrendering 1.6 goals per game for second best in the nation.
It's pretty good, but offensively, the Bobcats are led by the freshman sensation, Sam Annis, who leads the team with 24 points and has played with Kellen and Connor Jones, who have 22 and 19 points respectively. Last year's leading goal scorer, Jordan Samuels-Thomas, has also contributed 8 goals and 7 assists.
You know, if we do one of these next semester for the winter sports season, I have a feeling Sam Annis might be part of that Freshman of the Year discussion. Now, we're going to talk about everything else and more that we haven't discussed here. We're going to bring in Marty Joseph and Tom Albanese to do it. Take it away, guys.
Thanks, guys. So you mentioned the fast start that the men's ice hockey team is on so far this season. So Marty, let's bring you in. This team has lost 11 of its seniors from last season, and with all of the newcomers that have come on the team this season, through their success, do you feel that the team's success this season has been a surprise so far?
I don't really necessarily see it as a surprise because this team did return a lot of really skilled players, especially on the offensive side of things. But I have been surprised by the defense because the biggest question mark was in goal and the defense, losing 4 years starting 6 defensemen. And that was definitely the biggest surprise to me, this early fast start. I mean, last season they went on that 21-game beaten streak. They had a 13-game unbeaten streak through the first half of the season already. So, I mean, in terms of the wins, you got to be pretty surprised in that. I don't think you expect a team that loses players like that, and a lot of really key leaders and on the defensive side of things, players that really meant a lot to that team. And the way that last season ended as well, I don't think you expected them to come out, but they've come out with a lot of fire, and a lot of those returners are really determined to keep winning.
And you mentioned like the fast start. This team, like going into what they have so far this season, very close, similar record to this point in last season as well. So 2 straight seasons in which they have a fast start. So now leading right back into the freshmen. Which of the freshmen this season so far has been really impressive to you mostly so far, Marty?
Well, there's been a lot that's pretty much impressed. I know it's the easy one to say is Sam Annis with 24 points, surprising a lot of people up on that first line with the Joneses. But given the talent of the Joneses and the way that they've been playing, I think it's a pretty easy one to say Sam Annis. But there's really been a lot. I think every one of them have really done a good job. I think Devon Taves has impressed a lot of people. He's bringing an offensive side of things. He's helped out on that top power play unit as well. Even a couple of the fourth liners, the guys that don't get that much ice time, but when they're put out there, like Tim Clifton and Braden Sherberton, they're doing good jobs and they're working pucks in deep and they're doing things that a lot of people didn't expect too many of them to do. So, I mean, in terms of the whole freshman class, I think it's a pleasant surprise, and I think they're all working hard, and it shows that they're only going to get better because I don't think we've seen this team's been at their best game yet. They've at flashes like last season where they'd be pretty much unstoppable at times, but you can see where they're still young and they're still making mistakes. So right now, I think you got to go with Sam Annis or Devon Taves or Connor Clifton, but all of them have been pretty strong so far.
Now, the rest of the upperclassmen, the other half of this team, away from the freshmen now, they've been really supportive of this entire unit too. They're the leaders on this team. They're the experienced ones who helped the team go all the way to the national championship game against Yale last season. So out of all of the returning players, all of those upperclassmen leaders, who would you say is the biggest impression out of you so far through the first 17 games?
Well, you mentioned leadership, Tom, and I think that's probably what the best skill that they've possessed so far. You see the Joneses, Corey Hibbler stepping into the captain role, and with 11 newcomers in the team at the start of the season, obviously Peter Quenville leaving to go play juniors, but with that much newcomers and that many new faces in the locker room, it's really on the leadership at the beginning of the season, and I think that's what most players don't really notice in the inside of the locker room. But I think in terms of the on-ice production, you got to look at the Joneses. They've had probably their best start to any season of their careers so far. They're right up there in the tops of the nation with points as well. And even that second line of the Hibbler, Jordan Samuels-Thomas, and Bryce Van Brabant, they throw their weight around, they get pucks in deep, they cycle it around, and they've found ways to manufacture goals.
Now, when you look at everything that the Bobcats have done so far this season, Marty, what has been the most impressive thing that you see throughout everything on this roster and what they've done so far this season, contributing to their 13-2-2 record? What has been the most impressive thing?
You got to look at their defense and the way that Michael Gartek has played backstopping that defense. And everyone jumped on this team, and the question marks were in that defensive zone, losing 4 of your starting 6 defensemen, losing your starting senior goaltender. So I think the way that the young defense has stepped right in, like Devon Toews, like Connor Clifton, like Derek Smith, and they've stepped in, they've played significant minutes, and they've played power play time, and they've done a really good job in the defensive zones as well. So I think the defense is what impressed me the most.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about the ECAC. Quinnipiac so far with the 13-2-2 record, as we've talked about. First place in the ECAC with 13 points. Second is Union with 10 points, and then it follows 10 points and a few teams with 9 and 8 points separately. So I know you touched upon Union early on in terms of who can really compete with Quinnipiac at the top of that ECAC conference. So now, the situation with Quinnipiac, looking behind and seeing those teams, which one of those teams, Marty, do you think is going to be the most likely to really challenge Quinnipiac for that top seed in the ECAC?
It's really got to be Union. I said at the beginning of the season that I think that team is the favorite to win the conference outright once again. They've won it 2 years in a row. Especially this season, they're going to be motivated, losing 3 times to Quinnipiac. 2 of the games weren't really close at all. One of them, Quinnipiac coming back down 2-0 in the third period, winning that game 3-2 up at the bank. So I think that team is motivated to beat Quinnipiac this year, and I think that they return a lot of players from a team that went to the Frozen Four 2 years ago. Like I said, back-to-back ECAC championships, and they really haven't hit their full stride in the season yet. The last 2 years, they've been a second-half team, and they've gotten hot and rode that wave through the playoffs, and I think that's what's going to happen again this year. They're scoring goals, but they're having a little bit of trouble defensively, and their goaltending situations had a little bit of trouble. Losing Troy Grosnick is a huge loss, but Colin Stevens has been good. He just hasn't really been consistent. So I think when he gets into a little bit more of a learning experience, starts seeing teams that he's used to seeing, starts seeing a couple more pucks, I think he's going to get better. I think that defense is going to get better, and I think that's going to be the team that's going to be up there with Quinnipiac at the end of the season.
Well, of course, Quinnipiac will have 2 games against Union. One of them coming up in the next week. So we're going to have to see how Quinnipiac does against that. And of course, other teams you could potentially take a look at also, like Clarkson, Cornell, and even Yale could even surprise people in the ECAC as well. They tied Quinnipiac, as I mentioned earlier, 3-3. They always surprised. Look where they went last year, winning the national championship too. And of course, Clarkson, second most wins behind Quinnipiac in the ECAC. So of course, that's another team to look at as well. So Quinnipiac is going to continue to play their ECAC part of the schedule, and of course a few more out of conference schedule. The second half of the season is going to be starting very soon, and of course we're going to have to look forward to see if Quinnipiac can hold on to that ECAC lead, and how will they fare when it comes time for the ECAC championships. And if they do fare, maybe they'll go back to the NCAA tournament like they did last year. So obviously that's all ahead of us. So that's it for men's hockey. We're going to send it back to you guys. Guys, take it away.
Marty and Tom, thank you guys. And John, that just about does it for this Q30 Sports special semester recap.
Say it ain't so, but what an incredible semester it's been, with 2 MAC championships for Quinnipiac Falls sports teams and all 4 winter squads appearing to be poised for deep playoff runs.
I would say, just my opinion, but I would say that the year is off to a pretty good start athletically for QU.
Well, that's a good opinion, and I agree with that, but that'll do it for us here at Q30 Sports until next semester.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at Q30 Sports.
And check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/user/Q30TV.
And we hope you all have a happy and healthy holiday season.
And until next time, he's Mark Spillane. I'm John Alba. Good night, everyone.